Modern physics is trapped. We are trained to see the universe as a collection of isolated particles, and the constants of nature as mere numerical accidents we have to measure. Mode identity theory discards that approach entirely and replaces it with a rigorous geometric architecture. To understand this framework, you have to abandon the particle-first mental model. You must accept two strict axioms. Matter is exactly identical to a wave, and time is not a background container, but simply the phase edge of that wave. Under these axioms, the fundamental constants of nature are not arbitrary numbers. They are specific, fixed mathematical coordinates on a bounded topological domain. If you try to force particle-first logic onto this framework, you will experience what's called drift. It is the exact cognitive trap that leaves standard physics stuck with unsolvable paradoxes and the endless tuning of free parameters. Mode identity theory makes a singular, highly restrictive claim. The entire universe, from cosmic expansion down to quantum mechanics, operates on exactly zero free parameters. This architecture allows three primitive inputs: the speed of light, c, Planck's constant, h bar, and the gravitational constant, g. Nothing else is assumed. Every other value in physics, including the fine structure constant and the mass of every particle, is derived purely from the underlying geometry of the universe. This is a chart showing the theoretical mass predictions of the standard model fermions. Using zero free parameters, this pure geometric derivation locks in the mass of the electron, the up quark, and the muon to within 6% of their observed experimental values. If a zero-parameter calculation can predict the exact mass hierarchy of subatomic matter from scratch, our standard model of physics is missing a critical layer of reality and must be rebuilt from topological bedrock. We begin the derivation chain at the absolute bedrock. There is no physical matter here and no pre-existing energy. There is only pure topology. The structure starts with a one-dimensional temporal boundary, S1, a simple closed ring. This edge extrudes into a two-dimensional, non-orientable surface, a Mobius strip. Finally, this surface embeds within a closed, three-dimensional hypersphere, S3. Within this geometry, the observer is located at the square root of omega. This specific coordinate represents the exact mathematical midpoint between the infinite scale of the cosmic domain and the microscopic scale of the Planck floor. Each observable property lives on a specific geometric layer, identified by a manifold index, n. If it exists on the edge, on the two-dimensional surface, or the spatial hypersphere, that placement strictly dictates its level of dimensional dilution. Physical reality is structured exactly like nested Russian dolls. The measured value of any constant you test in a lab is simply a reflection of which geometric doll it resides on. This master equation is the universal scaling law, dictating every cosmic observable. The first half features the phase operator, c of theta, a standing wave setting exact constant locations on a discrete 120-step grid. This grid applies the bosonic filter, locking constants to even-numbered positions. The equation's second half determines the spatial dilution factor. It links back to the manifold index, n, multiplying the phase location by its distance from the Planck scale. We can prove this works by mapping the cosmological constant, lambda, which measures the energy density of the vacuum. When assigned to the exact topological antinode at position 60 out of 120, the equation yields its precise real-world observed value. Fundamental constants are not mysterious independent numbers that physicists have to guess. They are inevitable, immovable coordinates on this master phase field. We can apply this exact law to resolve the major crises in macro astrophysics, beginning with the cosmological constant problem. Standard physics overestimates the energy of the vacuum by an absurd 122 orders of magnitude. But the error entirely vanishes in mode identity theory. Because lambda originates on the two-dimensional surface, it has a manifold index of n equals 2. The scaling law naturally dilutes it by exactly 122 orders of magnitude relative to the Planck floor. There is no discrepancy. Next is the Hubble tension, the persistent conflict between measurements of the universe's expansion, taken from the early cosmic microwave background, and measurements from our local galaxy. Standard cosmology assumes measurement errors, but local measurements happen inside flat curved disk galaxies, crossing a universal gravitational trigger threshold at a specific circular velocity. Crossing this threshold triggers the local environment. The standing wave literally snaps to the very next bosonic step on the 120-part grid. Calculating that single discrete phase shift bridges the Hubble gap perfectly. It mechanically shifts the expansion rate from the early universe value of 67.4 directly to the local observed value of 73.2. These cosmic anomalies are not the result of failing instruments, and they do not require invisible dark matter to explain. They are the strict result of local observers interacting with the rigid geometric constraints of the wave. The exact same topological rules govern the microscopic extremes. We can turn the framework inward to derive the mass of subatomic particles. Particle masses are not arbitrarily assigned by a Higgs mechanism. They are the forced mathematical result of Yang-Mills confinement, generated strictly by the positive curvature of the S3 hypersphere. Formula A derives particle mass through 4 geometric factors: vacuum floor, Coston sunflower, Riedemeister torsion, and hierarchy distance. Plotted on the E8 Mackay graph, this distance determines mass spacing. It correctly predicts 10 of 12 standard model fermions, including exact electron and muon masses. Particle physics does not require dozens of arbitrary inputs. The mass hierarchy is a direct, unavoidable resonance of the underlying topology. When we step back, the universe operates as an interconnected thermodynamic machine. Mathematically, it is described as a waltz between the two-dimensional surface and the three-dimensional space. There's a strict division of labor here. The two-dimensional surface sets the vacuum energy. It writes the music. The three-dimensional space hosts the particles. It provides the dancers. Gravity is the mathematical translation between these two vastly different dimensional spaces. This interaction is governed by the Gauss-Codazzi equations, which perfectly map how embedding a surface into a space forces that space to curve. The gravitational constant g acts merely as a conversion dictionary located at the n=0 Planck floor. It establishes the tempo, converting the curvature of the surface into the energy of the space. Gravity is not an invisible force pulling isolated masses together. It is simply the geometric cost required for a three-dimensional space to host a two-dimensional boundary. The ultimate scientific strength of mode identity theory is its rigidity. Because it contains zero free parameters, there are no tuning knobs to twist if new observational data disagrees with the math. This leads to an imminent, strict falsification threshold. The upcoming data release from the Euclid Space Telescope will measure the constancy of local acceleration, A0, and the cosmological constant, lambda, across deep time. If even a single primary prediction fails, for example, if the cosmological constant is shown to evolve over time, rather than remaining perfectly static, the entire framework is instantly destroyed. It is time to make the required ontological shift. We must stop searching the dark for missing particles to balance our equations and begin understanding our specific location on the geometric manifold. Reality is not made of isolated things. The identity of all matter, time, and scale is the wave.